My younger brother removed my name from our parents' gravestone, and somehow, the worst part wasn't the humiliation. The worst part was discovering my mother helped him plan it before she died. I found out during a rainy Sunday morning at the cemetery. Interesting, because grief changes shape over time. At first, you cry loudly. Then years later, pain becomes quieter, heavier, like carrying stones inside your chest permanently. I returned home after 17 years away, not because I wanted reconciliation, because my younger brother called unexpectedly. First phone call in nearly a decade, and honestly, his voice sounded strange immediately. Too calm, too rehearsed. Then softly, he whispered, "Mom asked for you before she died." Silence, real silence, because suddenly, after 17 years of family distance, my mother was gone before I even knew she became sick. Interesting, because broken families usually miss important moments while waiting too long to reconnect. Then my brother added something worse. She wanted you to visit Dad's grave. No explanation, nothing else. Just that. So 3 days later, I flew back to the small Pennsylvania town I once spent my entire childhood trying to escape. Cold rain, empty roads, same old church cemetery beside the hills. And honestly, everything looked smaller than memory, except the guilt. That felt larger. Then I finally reached my parents' gravesite, and instantly, my entire body froze because my name was gone, completely removed from the family headstone. No damage, no accident, carefully erased. Interesting, because hatred becomes terrifying when done slowly and professionally. The stone originally read, "Beloved parents of Michael and Daniel Harper." Now, only Daniel remained. My younger brother, not me. My blood ran cold instantly, because suddenly, after 17 years away, I realized my family erased me officially even after death. Then softly, a voice behind me whispered, "Mom said you stopped being her son years ago." I turned slowly, and there stood Daniel, my younger brother, older now, gray hair, same angry eyes, and honestly, he looked like a man carrying hatred too long. Then I whispered the question, barely breathing. "Why would Mom agree to this?" Daniel laughed softly. Not happy laughter, bitter. Then came the sentence that shattered me instantly. "Because Dad died trying to save you." Silence filled the cemetery immediately. Heavy silence, because suddenly, after 17 years avoiding my family completely, the night my father died returned sharply inside my memory. Interesting, because trauma never truly disappears. It waits quietly until someone speaks the right sentence. Then rain hit harder across the gravestones while Daniel stared directly into my eyes. And softly, almost shaking with anger, my brother whispered, "You still don't know what really happened that night." My chest tightened painfully now, because suddenly I realized my family blamed me for my father's death all these years. And somehow, whatever truth Daniel carried would destroy the last piece of my family completely. Rain poured harder across the cemetery, while my younger brother stared at me like a stranger wearing our father's face. And honestly, for the first time in 17 years, I became afraid of learning the truth. Interesting, because some families survive only by burying certain memories permanently. Then softly, I whispered, "What are you talking about?" Daniel looked toward our parents' gravestone silently, and suddenly he seemed exhausted instead of angry. Then finally, my brother confessed everything. The night Dad died, he wasn't trying to save me from the river. No, my chest tightened instantly because suddenly the only memory I carried from that night felt unstable. Then Daniel whispered softly, "He was trying to stop you." Silence, real silence, because suddenly my entire childhood shifted emotionally. Interesting, because truth becomes terrifying when it changes your own memories too. Then Daniel explained, 17 years earlier, I returned home drunk after losing my construction business completely. Debt everywhere, divorce papers waiting at home, and according to Daniel, I blamed Dad for everything because years earlier, he refused helping me financially expand the company. Interesting, because resentment inside families quietly grows until one terrible night finally releases it. Then fragments of memory return painfully, screaming inside the garage. Rain outside, Dad yelling my name angrily, and me throwing old boxes across the floor. But honestly, I still couldn't remember the rest clearly. Then Daniel whispered the sentence that destroyed me completely. You tried burning the house down? No, impossible. But suddenly, another buried memory surfaced violently. Gasoline smell. Dad grabbing the lighter from my hand. My own hands shaking uncontrollably. And suddenly, I remembered the truth. Interesting, because the mind sometimes hides shame deeper than pain. That night, I completely lost control emotionally. Not because I truly wanted killing anyone, because everything inside my life collapsed simultaneously. Debt, alcohol, failure, and years of anger toward Dad finally exploded. Then Daniel explained what happened next. Dad dragged me outside during the storm while trying stopping me physically. But while wrestling near the flooded roadside ditch beside our property, Dad slipped, hit his head against concrete, and drowned unconscious before help arrived. My knees nearly failed beneath me, because suddenly, after 17 years blaming my family for abandoning me, I realized I abandoned them first, emotionally. Then softly, I whispered, "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Daniel laughed bitterly again, then quietly answered, "Because Mom begged us not to." Silence filled the cemetery, because suddenly I realized my mother protected me all these years despite everything. Interesting, because mothers continue loving sons even after terrible mistakes. Then Daniel revealed the truth, destroying him for years. Police originally suspected manslaughter, maybe worse. But according to Daniel, Mom privately told investigators Dad's death was an accident during an argument, protecting me, saving me from prison. My chest physically hurt now, because suddenly, every year I spent hating my family became unbearable emotionally. Then Daniel started crying quietly, real tears, because honestly, he carried this burden alone after Mom died too. Then through tears, my brother whispered, "You disappeared the next morning without even attending Dad's funeral." No, that memory returned painfully too. Me leaving town, terrified and ashamed, before sunrise. Interesting, because guilt makes cowards out of people sometimes. Then Daniel admitted the reason he removed my name from the gravestone. Not revenge, not hatred. Mom asked him to. My stomach dropped instantly, because suddenly the betrayal felt even worse emotionally. Then Daniel slowly handed me an old folded letter protected inside plastic. Mom's handwriting. Shaking hands. And honestly, I almost couldn't open it. Then finally, I unfolded the paper carefully, and instantly, my mother's words destroyed me completely. "Michael, if you ever come home, I need you to understand something." Rain mixed with tears across my face now, because suddenly I could hear her voice again perfectly. Then the letter continued. "I removed your name because you already punished yourself enough." Silence, because honestly, that sentence made no sense yet. Then came the final paragraph. The empty space beside us was never meant as rejection. My hands started shaking harder. Then finally, Mom revealed the truth. The gravestone originally included 4 names: Mom, Dad, Daniel, and me. But before dying, Mom asked the cemetery removing my name temporarily not to erase me, to leave space unfinished until I returned home one day willingly. Interesting, because love sometimes looks cruel before truth fully arrives. Then Daniel quietly explained everything. Mom believed I'd eventually come back after forgiving myself. And when that happened, the cemetery artist would re-engrave my name personally during a family memorial service. My chest shattered emotionally, because suddenly, the missing name wasn't punishment. It was hope. Then Daniel whispered softly, "She waited every year for your call." Real sobbing escaped me instantly, because honestly, I wasted 17 years believing my family hated me, while my mother secretly waited for me until her final breath. Then slowly, Daniel stepped beside me near the gravestone, awkward silence between 2 old brothers broken by grief and guilt. Then softly, he admitted something heartbreaking too. "I blamed you because blaming someone felt easier than missing Dad." Interesting, because grief often disguises itself as anger inside families. Then, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, my younger brother hugged me. Not perfectly, not magically healed, just 2 broken old men crying in rain beside their parents. And honestly, that felt more real than forgiveness speeches ever could. 3 months later, we held a small memorial ceremony together. Quiet, simple, just family. And finally, the cemetery worker carefully engraved my name back onto the stone, beside Daniel's, beside our parents, where it always belonged. Then, one evening afterward, while standing alone beside the finished gravestone during sunset, I finally understood something important. Families don't break from one terrible moment alone. They break from silence afterward, from shame, from pride, from years people spend believing they're unforgivable. And honestly, my mother understood something I didn't for 17 years. The worst punishment wasn't losing my family. It was losing myself after one terrible night. Because sometimes going home isn't about returning to a place. It's about finally believing you still deserve a place there.